What's up, everybody? It's Luke James, not the singer. If you're looking to get your music reviewed, you can hit up this email that's right here. But today I'm going to hit you up with my thoughts and opinions on this new album from Royce da 5'9" called The Allegory. Now, Royce da 5'9" is a top-tier spitter from Detroit who's been active since the 90s, and not only has he had a really great solo career, he was also a part of some pretty dope groups. He worked with Eminem as Bad Meets Evil, he was in Slaughterhouse with King Crooked, Joell Ortiz, and Joe Budden, and in recent years, he came together with DJ Premier to become Prime. So this is an artist who's been active for a long time, he's very consistent, and he's an artist that I respect, and with his last project, Book of Ryan, I think he really dropped his best work. He just got very deep and personal on that one, so that made me more curious to see which direction he'd be going with in this one. Would he be toning it back a bit? Would he be getting into some different content? And then I heard that he was doing most of the beats on here too, which added even more to the mystique. Now right away, after listening to the first track, I found out what type of content we were going to get here, because Royce is kind of coming through on that woke shit. On the intro track, Mr. Grace, he spits, was told to hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, in a place that hears no evil, sees no evil, where the oppressor sees no color, which I took as him calling out racist people and those who downplay racism in this day and age, especially those people who say, I don't see color, or I don't care if you're purple, green, yellow, or brown. You know, people who say that dumb shit that just makes you wonder. And he also speaks on this track about black people's influence when he spits, we are the inventors, we are the lenders, we are the matriarchs, only thing we didn't make was slavery laws. So very quickly you find out that you're in for some thought-provoking content here, but at the same time, I didn't really love this track. I do think it worked good as an intro, but it really is kind of this spoken word piece over this very minimalistic backdrop. It's not something that I would come back to. And on top of all that, you have this minute-long intro on the start of it, which is just this clip of a father teaching his child some lessons. Now that's all good and fine because it does tie into the themes and concept of this album, but man, including that intro, you get 7 skits / interludes on this album, which does get to be a little bit excessive as you're listening through. I did find it kind of interesting on perspective though, where Eminem was sharing his perspective about racial dynamics and how hip-hop has helped connect people. So they do all tie into the themes of this project, but sometimes when there's too many skits, it gets to be a little bit annoying, and I thought it did kind of make this project bloated in my opinion, but you guys can let me know down below how you feel about that. But to move on to the next song, we have Dope Man, and I really did like the start of this because you have Imani singing over this very soulful backdrop about how the dope man is the hood celebrity, but then this track just kind of gets weird and all over the place in my opinion. After that soulful, groovy intro, we get Cedric the Entertainer talking for a little bit, then we get a Summer Madness and NWA sample that come into play, then we get some 8-bit bass coming in on Royce's rapped verse, which to me just kind of felt out of place. I don't think that bass fit with this track in my opinion. I thought it was kind of weird sounding. So yeah, man, it was just all over the place. Not a good start with these first 2 songs. Then the next song, I Don't Age, didn't leave much of an impression on me other than that bar that he had about Kendrick and Control. Really not a good start, man. The first 3 songs on this kind of had me worried about what was going to happen here, but thankfully I love the 4th track called Pendulum. This one here got me scowling with the eerie strums on the beat. It's just such a grimy production, so I think Royce did good on this one. And that hook about robbing the rich and leaving them with the bill, that shit is going to be crazy at live performances, man. I can see people going absolutely ape shit when they're singing along with that, jumping up and down just in a dirty dungeon of a place where he's performing. That's really dope. And there are some pretty funny lines on here too, like when Royce spits that he's parking dick like Mr. Marcus. If you don't know who Mr. Marcus is, let's just say Royce is fucking with a ball cap on, man. He's keeping it old school. And I mean like an old school cap like this one here. No flat brim, because that ain't how Mr. Marcus do. You also get Ashley Sorrell on this one with a very whispery flow that fits the track perfectly, and Royce's second verse has some great content about the state of the rap game and how young rappers are behaving within it. So really I did like a lot of content on this one, and I think Royce did come through as far as that aspect of the project goes. Now another immediate standout is I Play Forever, where Royce and Graf are going in over this very smooth jazz production, and even though Royce's dog flow on that one verse that he was doing kind of got annoying and old very quick in my opinion, there were still some gems that he was spitting, like when he says, on the block all day and night like a prostitute do, every artist out there y'all like on the charts are doo-doo, I'm from where thoughts will convolute you, the cops are cuckoo, charge you, try you, and prosecute you, if not, just shoot you. I just like the rhyme scheme he had there, and there's some really good lines in there, just in regards to how he's feeling about hip-hop right now, and how the police are wilding out. So again, some good lines from Royce, but that's not anything new, man. That's what you expect from Royce when you go into a project of his. He's always going to give you some good lines. ones. So Pendulum and Play Forever, those are two of my favorite tracks, and Upside Down is up there as well. I think it's really cool how the hook melody on this comes from the song Tom's Diner. That is an old school banger, man. You cannot deny that shit. Look it up if you don't know it. And I appreciate how Royce referenced Sarah Baartman on this song. If you never heard about that, Sarah Baartman is this woman from the 1800s, a black woman, who was basically put on display like a freak show because she had a really big ass. So the line he spits is, "Black women want to be built like cartoon characters. Eric Cartman that bears a striking resemblance to Sarah Baartman." So obviously he's talking about these ridiculous fake asses that these women are getting that make them look like they're smuggling 2 halves of a ham in the back of their pants, man. Some really weird looking shit that just doesn't move right, doesn't sit right. We all know with these fake asses, man. Girls out here walking around looking like queen ants, like somebody that's going to be in A Bug's Life. The legs don't match, because when you see a girl with a real booty, you can tell, man, the legs match. But these girls are walking around looking like a sack of potatoes with 2 Q-tips for legs. The shit just doesn't add up to me. Now, of course, we got to mention Benny the Butcher is featured on this track, and he continues to have this streak of just killing features every time he shows up. He always delivers memorable lines, and on this one he says, "I need violence, Rasheed Wallace, I'm okay with a tech." And for the non-basketball fans out there, Rasheed Wallace is a basketball player, former basketball player, who just was okay with getting technical fouls, man. He was always out there wilding out, saying what had to be said, getting rough. He was not afraid. So shout out to Rasheed Wallace, and that was a dope reference from Benny. And since we are talking about Benny, a member of Griselda, we got to talk about Overcomer, which features Westside Gunn. Personally, I'm not always a big fan of Westside Gunn in high doses. Like, whenever he drops a full album, I don't find myself liking the whole thing. But every time he's featured, I just like his unique sound, his energy, and charisma, which is no different on here. Now, this beat does get kind of empty when the drums drop out because it's very bare and minimalistic on those verses, but I still thought it was a pretty cool beat because of how soulful it was, and it did work really good for Westside Gunn and Royce. But the thing that stuck out the most to me about this one has got to be when Royce da 5'9" calls out Yellow Wolf for being a racist. You can read about the story, it's out there, it's floating around. I'm not going to break it down too much because I'm not TMZ, but that shit came completely out of the blue, and I'm really curious to see where that's going to go. So one thing I will say about Royce on this album is that he does provide a lot of memorable bars and talking points. Like I said, that's what Royce does, that's what you expect, and he still is delivering that on here. But one of the most touching moments, in my opinion, comes on the song Hero, where he's showing love to his father and actually kind of apologizing for all the details that he got into on the Book of Ryan. He really painted his dad as this crazy man with all the shit that he was going through back then, struggling with addiction and just wilding out at times on holidays. So I think this was a very touching track, and I think it was really cool for him to basically apologize for airing all that business out, because obviously that would have an effect on a person when you dig up the past like that. Very cool idea for a track. Lyrically, I thought this was one of the album's most focused tracks, because some of the other ones, you know, he is dropping gems and stuff, but he's getting all over the place. I don't think these songs are overly cohesive with content. Like, he's not sticking to one topic and expanding on it on a bunch of these tracks, but on this one he is. And the simplicity of the vocal samples and the clean piano keys on this work really well. So this was one of my favorite beats, and it was kind of funny that I had to wait till the last song to get one of my favorite tracks. But hey, there were a couple of dope tracks on this album. But to get back to some of the features, you got Oswin Benjamin putting up points by referencing VR Troopers, Wishbone, and Mega Man on the song On the Block. This one is co-produced by DJ Premier, so naturally it's one of the best tracks. And Kid Vicious had some great lines on Now Shell, where he spits, "I don't wait when it's war, I'm on some now shit. Leave your mama praying over beef, I halal shit." That is a dope ass line, because he's saying your mama is stressing over this beef, she's praying over it, just like they pray over the beef when they're making it halal. Great line, really like what Kid Vicious spit right there. But Royce had one of the album's best lines on this song with this one. "I don't care if you rap niggas is trending topic, your shit is garbage. You couldn't make a classic out of that trash if you had Brenda drop it," which is a very clear reference to Tupac's classic song Brenda's Got a Baby. Another excellent line from Royce, and there are some more good features on here as well. On Young World, we have Royce, G Perico, and Vince Staples spitting over this plunky bass line about various ills of the world. Vince Staples is spitting some gang lifestyle shit. G Perico is touching on student loans, just all kinds of topics kind of spoken on here in regards to what young people might be dealing with. And then on the soft and hazy joint, My People Free, this one actually came across more as an Ashley Sorrell track featuring Royce, because he had a very small part on this one, and you know, just speaking a little bit on authenticity. He also drops a quick bridge. These songs are pretty cool, man. These aren't amazing songs to me. They're not songs that I'll probably go out of my way to come back to, but they were pretty solid songs, and they deserve to be on the track list. I wouldn't say they should be cut, but Black Savage is one of the best tracks on this album by far, man. Very soulful vocal back production on here. I like when that organ comes in, and Royce, T.I., and Sci-Hi all deliver great performances to make for a black excellence banger. I thought it was pretty cool when Sci-Hi was speaking on fixing the Sphinx's noses, just because that's the right thing to do, man, just to get that shit proper. So another song with some great content on there, some black excellence vibes. But of course, one of the biggest talking points from this album, I'm sorry, I can't ignore it, is Royce's anti-vax beliefs being put on full display. I'm not saying this ruins the album by any means, but I am saying that it is kind of disappointing, because on this album where Royce is dropping some knowledge and speaking on some real issues, he comes through with this shit, which I just can't believe he would stoop to this level with this anti-vax shit. Like, here's some of the stuff that he says. First of all, actually, on Black People in America, we get this interlude where it's a couple of guys talking a bunch of anti-vax shit or this blubbery sound effect. Quite possibly the worst skit that I've ever heard in my life. And on the song Tricked, Royce and King Crooked are rapping over this clunky beat about all the tricks of the world, from shady record labels to the prison system, with Royce throwing this in there. From day one at the hospital, they target our children, say they're gonna immunize them, they somehow get autism. He backs this up on the song FUBU, where he and Conway are rapping over this plotting and eerie backdrop, and Royce says, "My son got autism from injection by syringes." This just annoys me, because as a father of a child with autism, much like myself with my 3-year-old son, just for Royce to spit this misinformation and put it out there, it's just very disappointing, man. I'm not saying he should give a fuck what I'm saying. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's got to change it for me. Like, he gives a fuck that I'm disappointed in him, but you know, he's saying all this great stuff on here, and then he's coming through with this bullshit. I think it also kind of adds stigma to autism as well. It makes it this very awful thing. Yes, there are difficulties with it, but you know, with my son, I don't look at it like this giant burden, and like I wasn't looking to blame things and all this. I just kind of deal with it and whatever. But everybody's different, so whatever. I don't want to get too deep into that stuff. I just I take this stuff seriously ever since my son's diagnosis, and I like to speak on it and just, you know, share my beliefs and experiences, which I guess, to be fair, that's kind of what he's doing too. But with this anti-vax shit, man, there's just so much research out there, so much information and things you can read up on. You know, there's a couple of parts on this album where Royce actually tells us to Google certain things so we know what he's talking about, but you could just Google anti-vaccine stuff and find out that a lot of it is bullshit. You could find the real research and all that. But anyway, I'm just going off about vaccines and autism now. But as I said, that's something that I can't ignore and I wanted to speak on because I do take it seriously. But at the end of the day, I am going to go with a 7 out of 10 here. By the way, I've changed my ratings to 10. I'll post a little blurb at the top of this comment section just to explain why, rather than going all over it again here. Some of you already know. But I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10 because I think this is a pretty good album. But I don't like it as much as his last album, The Book of Ryan. I think that was much more focused, cohesive. The production was better. The hooks were better. The content was much more thorough on that album as well. And I also found with this one, in spite of him undoubtedly being a great lyricist, some of these beats just weren't hitting that well for me. I still give him props for, you know, doing all of this production because that's a big step for a rapper to do that. But there's a lot of hit and miss beats here. I did really like some of them, but for the most part, I didn't find the production on this to be extraordinary. Again, I think I might be in the minority here because a lot of people seem to be wowed by this production, whereas I wasn't. But it is what it is, man. I found this one kind of a bit of a slog to make it through. As I said, the first little bit didn't stick with me too much. It took a while to get going. Then you had all those skits and interludes on there. Really just feels like an instance where maybe a little bit of trimming would have resulted in a tighter overall project. Even with that song, Rhinestone Do-Rag, I mean, it's just a minute long. It kind of feels like a half-cooked song that was just thrown on there for the sake of it. Doesn't really sound awful, but doesn't really add too much either, in my opinion. But there you go, man. That's my opinion on this one. I know I was all over the place, but there was a lot to speak on here. It's a very long album. But hey, hopefully you can piece together my thoughts, and that will at least start a little bit of a discussion down below. So thank you for watching. Make sure you check out the channel. Do all that good YouTube and social media stuff where you show me love and you show me lots of it. Leave me those comments. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.